welcome. You're watching the newsroom breaking at this hour. Let's start with the top focus. Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in India for a two-day state visit, which is taking place amid a rapidly evolving global order and ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. He's going to kick off the trip with a private dinner hosted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where they are expected to exchange views and key global and regional issues, including developments in Eurasia and the Indo-Pacific. On the second day of his visit, Putin is going to address the India-Russia Business Forum, where both sides hope to energize private sector partnerships and attract new investments. In the evening at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Indian President Draupadi Murmu will host a state banquet in his honor. India and Russia aim to raise two-way trade to $100 billion by 2030. Now, their commerce rose more than fivefold from about $13 billion in 2021 to nearly $69 billion in 2024 to 25 period, almost entirely driven by Indian energy imports. Now, according to Putin's aide, a joint statement is planned along with the signing of several bilateral documents spanning multiple sectors. Among them is the program for the development of strategic areas of Russian-Indian economic cooperation until 2030. And now joining me on this discussion is my colleague Meher Khurana. Meher, what more can you tell us and our viewers about the dialogue that's expected to take place?
Well, yes, major developments happening in India today, as we just witnessed Russian President Vladimir Putin arriving at the Indian airport, and he was welcomed by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now it is said that Prime Minister Modi broke the standard protocol and went to welcome the Russian President himself. Now this is taken as a celebratory moment between both the sides, Russia and India, and we have also seen visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi hugging and welcoming the President of Russia. They were also seen in the same car while leaving the airport. Now it is said that this visit is a two-day visit to India, and a lot of bilateral agreements are going to be signed, and the major focus is the S-400, which is supplied to India by Russia, and India is awaiting a response from Russia regarding it. Now, Putin's last visit to India was in 2021, and it is important to note that this is the first meeting that Putin has lined up with Modi since the Russia-Ukraine war took place. Now, the formal 23rd annual summit is set to take place at the Hyderabad House, which is going to be tomorrow, which is December 5th. And Putin is also supposed to address the India-Russia Business Forum later tomorrow.
Right.
Now, it is also important to note that 60 to 70% of India's military hardware is Russian, and now Russia is also top supplier of India's oil. So a lot of talks are going to be focused on those, along with the S-400 missiles that Russia supplies to India. And now we will bring you all the updates from this news, as Putin is still in India and he has started his day one. Over to you.
Thanks, Meher, for all those details, and viewers, we continue to track all the crucial developments in the meeting between the two leaders. But for now, let's move on. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says his negotiators are already headed to the United States for new talks with US President Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. The meeting set in Miami follows Witkoff's 5-hour discussion with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow that the Kremlin says produced no compromise. Now, Trump described the negotiation as reasonably good while stressing both sides must engage. Putin repeated demands that Ukrainian troops withdraw from occupied Donbass. Ukraine officials dismissed Moscow's stance, saying Russia is wasting the world's time. Despite limited progress, Kyiv insists that it remains committed to pursuing a just and lasting peace. Let's listen into the Ukrainian president.
І після американської сторони, після їх зустрічі в Росії, наші дві делегації зустрінуться в Сполучених Штатах. І тому Умєров, Ігнатов полетіли, мені здається, вже в Сполучені Штати Америки. Я буду знати більш ширшу інформацію після того, як вони зустрінуться.
All right, let's welcome my colleague Meher back into the discussion here. Meher, what's the latest that you're picking up as far as the peace dialogue is concerned?
Well, so now the focus has shifted to Miami, Florida, where US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is going to be meeting the Ukraine's National Security Chief Rustem Umerov, and this meeting comes after Steve Witkoff and Trump's US President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner met with Vladimir Putin in Kremlin this week, which took place on Tuesday, and this was a 4 to 5 hour long meeting. And the US has now shifted its focus from Moscow and is focusing on Kyiv, and after the talks in Moscow they are taking up all the data that was collected from there and is making proposals to Kyiv now. The Kremlin has explicitly stated that the previous talks between Witkoff and Putin did not reach a compromise, and Putin has reiterated that Donbas region is still a major aim in the discussion and is halting the peace talks between Russia, Ukraine and the US. And Donbas is taken over by Russia, but has demands, Ukraine has demands regarding it. And US President Donald Trump, on the other hand, called Tuesday's talks very good, and he said that they were reasonably good, which is contradictory to what the Kremlin is saying. Now, Kremlin has said that the talks were useful, but has said that no compromise was reached during that. Now, Ukrainian Foreign Minister, on the other hand, has accused Putin of wasting the world's time. This is an important statement coming in from the Ukrainian Foreign Minister. And Zelensky has again reiterated that Ukraine is looking for a lasting peace, a just and lasting peace, and Ukraine still remains committed to peace in the world and in Ukraine. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Meher, for helping our viewers understand the situation there. But let's take it on from here, viewers. Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that European Union leaders are preparing a new sanctions package against Russia, and he emphasized that it must focus on tightening pressure on Moscow's energy sector. Speaking after meeting Cypriot President Nikos in Kyiv, Zelensky noted that the measures should target everything that fuels Russia's budget and enables it to continue the war. He also expects Cyprus to support common European decisions on frozen Russian assets, as Cyprus will hold the rotating presidency of the Council of European Union from January next year to June 30 next year. Let's listen into what Zelensky had to say on that.
Зараз готують лідери Європейського Союзу новий санкційний пакет. Ми хочемо зробити його справді дієвим, а це означає продовження тиску на російський енергетичний сектор передусім, на все те інше, що дає Росії бюджетні надходження, а отже можливість затягувати цю війну. Ми розраховуємо на підтримку Кіпром спільних європейських рішень щодо російських активів. Це абсолютно справедливий принцип, що Росія повинна платити за війну, яку сама ж почала та яку продовжує. Кошти, які потрібні для оборони та для відновлення після російських ударів, цілком справедливо взяти з тих обсягів, які сам агресор залишив в руках вільного світу.
Moving on, viewers, the United Kingdom has unveiled sweeping new sanctions against Russia moments after Security Minister Dan Harvis addressed Parliament on the findings of the public inquiry into the 2018 Novichok poisoning. Harvis said the inquiry makes clear that President Vladimir Putin bears moral responsibility for the attack that killed British citizen Don Sturgess. Let's in fact listen in to what the UK Security Minister said.
The inquiry has found that those who were involved in the assassination attempt against Sergei Skripal were morally responsible for Dawn's death, and that deploying a highly toxic nerve agent in a busy city was an astonishingly reckless act. The Chair concludes that the operation must have been signed off at the highest level of the Russian state, including President Putin. Dawn Sturgis was the victim of an utterly reckless and dangerous act, a chemical weapons attack perpetrated by Russia on British soil. The pain and suffering it has caused can never be underdone. But we must honour Dawn Sturgis's memory, uphold truth and justice, and keep.
And in response here, the government has sanctioned the entire GRU military intelligence service, 8 cyber officers and 3 additional GRU operatives accused of the hostile activity across Europe and Ukraine. The Russian ambassador has also been summoned to the Foreign Office to account for what the UK calls Moscow's ongoing campaign of aggression. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the findings highlight the Kremlin's disregard for innocent lives. And moving on, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova says that Ukrainian attacks on the oil tankers in the Black Sea and on the Caspian Pipeline Consortium terminal in Russia's Novosibirsk are aimed at disrupting peace talks on Ukraine. Meanwhile, Kyiv says that its drone attacks on Russia and Russian interests are designed to make it harder for Moscow to fund the war as a deterrence measure. Let's have a look at what the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson had to say.
30 ноября мы уже комментировали совершенный киевским режимом террористический акт атаки против 2 танкеров в Черном море у берегов Турции и инфраструктурного объекта Международного Каспийского трубопроводного консорциума в акватории порта Новороссийск. Судя по всему, в Киеве проигнорировали недвусмысленную реакцию на это Анкары и Астаны, санкционировав 1 декабря новое нападение с помощью безэкипажных катеров на российское коммерческое судно, которое находилось в 80 морских милях от Черноморского побережья Турции. К счастью, экипаж и судно серьезно не пострадали, но все эти теракты, как мы понимаем, преследуют одну цель – сорвать намечающийся мирный процесс по регулированию конфликта и нанести ущерб навигационной безопасности в акватории.
She's also noted, in fact, that the production of fuel for Ukrainian long-range missiles at a factory in Denmark posed a risk of further escalation of the war. This comes as the Danish government announced the plan in September, prompting Moscow to say it would lead to more bloodshed in Ukraine. She's also accused that the Danish authorities are trying to make money from the bloodshed in Ukraine and are neglecting the interests of its own population as well as human rights. Let's take a look.
Первый из стран-спонсоров террористического киевского режима предоставил свою территорию для создания компонентов вооружений с целью их последующего боевого применения против мирных городов нашей страны. Эта авантюра подтверждает такой абсолютно враждебный милитаристский курс Копенгагена, саботирующего вместе с рядом других наиболее агрессивно настроенных к России стран усилия по политико-дипломатическому регулированию украинского кризиса. Это все несет риски дополнительной эскалации и поощряет неонацистов, а теперь уже и неонацистских террористов на Украине на совершение новых варварских преступлений в отношении гражданского населения в российских регионах. А теперь уже, вот мы только что говорили, не только население гражданского российских регионов, но и инфраструктуру гражданскую в других странах. Датские власти не скрывают, что данный шаг, кроме всего прочего, призван стимулировать развитие военно-промышленного комплекса этой страны. Ну, о чем это свидетельствует? Это свидетельствует об их стремлении обеспечить дальнейшее обогащение за счет продолжения кровопролития на Украине. Помимо этого, инициатива демонстрирует полное пренебрежение Копенгагеном интересами собственного населения. Я уж молчу про права человека.
Moving on, Russia says that any